Welcome back to Greg's Grooves. Today I'm going to start what I hope is going to be a series of videos called Overlooked Masterpieces. Now, the goal of this series is to take a look at albums that maybe have been hidden by greater albums that came before or immediately after them. And the place I want to start is with one of my favorite albums by my absolutely favorite band of all time. And that album is The Who by Numbers. Alright, so The Who by Numbers, 1975, comes after Quadrophenia in their studio discography, which is my favorite album of all time, and I'm sure I'll do a video on that at some point, but I don't think that's an overlooked masterpiece. I just think that's a masterpiece. And then it's followed in 1978 by Who Are You, which I feel is one of The Who's weakest albums, even though it's their last with Keith Moon, my drumming hero. I actually think Face Dances and even It's Hard are better albums, which probably is going to get me shot by some Who fans, but that's my truth and I'm sticking to it. But let's get to The Who by Numbers. I have this fantastic German Polydor pressing here. I just got lucky. This was the copy I bought when I was young and didn't know anything better, and I've since owned a couple other copies, including an American pressing, and man, this sounds so much better. So if you can get your hands on the German Polydor pressing, I suggest doing it. So why is The Who by Numbers an overlooked masterpiece to me? Well, by Pete Townshend's own admission, his songwriting was stifled at this time. He was going through writer's block. He was dealing with alcoholism, depression, and other substance abuse. And it shows in the songwriting. You don't have the majestic anthems of Who's Next. There's no Baba O'Reilly. There's no Won't Get Fooled Again. There's no even Behind Blue Eyes. Everything in this album is a little more stripped down. Gone are the synthesizers. Gone is the huge reverberating production that Glyn Johns puts on Who's Next, even though this is produced by Glyn Johns. It is a much more back to basics, you hear that from a lot of artists, approach to creating music. So you're following up on the heels, The Who is, of three rock operas essentially. Tommy, which is fully executed and then performed live to great appreciation by the masses. Talk about Woodstock, the Metropolitan Opera House. Tommy is a massive success and saves The Who's career. Then you have the Lifehouse project, which many people call failed, but results in inarguably The Who's most, I don't want to say their best work, but their most well-known work, the work that everyone kind of knows, even young kids who don't know much about classic rock can probably recognize the opening sense of Baba O'Reilly of Won't Get Fooled Again. And then you have Quadrophenia, which to me is the most fulfilled of all of Pete Townshend's visions, the most complete rock opera, the most entertaining rock opera in its concept to me. The Who by Numbers is none of those things. It is not a rock opera. It is not a concept album. It is just a collection of songs without any sort of unifying theme. And that's what I love about it, because there's real variety. If we take a look through the track listing, we start off with Slip Kid, which amazing songwriting, angsty songwriting, an amazing vocal delivery from Roger, and most interesting, the percussion is so weird. I'm a drummer. I'm used to listening to Keith Moon's unorthodox style of drumming, and this almost sounds like a precursor to samples and a sort of electronic style drum production where you have more of a loop of percussive sounds more so than actual drum set drumming. It's there, but it's more mechanical. It almost sounds like a drum machine. Great song. However Much I Booze, song 2, maybe Pete's most self-deprecating song, which is saying something because Pete tends to write a lot of songs that are self-deprecating. But just, you can feel the frustration, you can feel the sense of being at one's bottom point. A strong song. I'm not going to say one of the strongest on the album, but a strong song nonetheless. Then it's followed by the single, Squeezebox. Not a song I enjoy all that much, though it has its merits. A little comedic relief, maybe. But you can't say it's a bad song, and obviously it had success on the charts, and people know it. So it's probably the most recognized song from the album, which to me is a bit unfortunate because it's out of step with the rest of the album. Then we have what to me is the best 1-2 punch on the album, Dreaming from the Waist, which is in my top 5 Who songs, period. But probably not in my top 5 Who songs because of the album version. This song, to be appreciated, needs to be listened to and watched live. And there's a lot of good versions out there on YouTube. There's a good version on the Houston 75 DVD. And there's a great live version, I believe it's from Swansea. I could be wrong, on the deluxe, not the deluxe edition, the CD edition of The Who by Numbers with a couple additional tracks. That's not to say that the album version is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I love Dreaming from the Waist on the album. It's just that, like so many Who songs, it really comes into its own when played live. And to complete that 1-2 punch I just talked about, Imagine a Man is one of the most beautiful songs Pete has ever written, though I do wonder if it's a song that wouldn't have been better served if he took the lead vocal over Roger. Sometimes Roger struggles with those, and again, this is all my opinion, with those more melancholic lyrics where you can't have quite as much bluster. Imagine a Man might have been better served by a Pete lead vocal, but we'll never know. Another thing that makes The Who by Numbers great is John Entwistle's contribution. Side 2 starts with Success Story, which I quite like John Entwistle's songwriting. My Wife, his contributions to Tommy, but his best song written for The Who is Success Story. The story of a rock musician and everything that entails. It's funny, witty, in the style of almost all John Entwistle songs, and it's just a great tune and has some of Keith's strongest drumming on the album, in my opinion. It's followed up by They're All in Love, which again is kind of in that Imagine a Man sort of line, a little melancholic, a little low tempo, and a good song. It's a solid album track. Blue, Red, and Gray is a sleeper. Pete Townsend on ukulele, one of the most beautiful songs in the Who discography. I think it often gets overlooked. It reminds me a bit of some of Pete Townsend's solo work, songs like Misunderstood, right, where it's kind of just Pete and a couple acoustic instruments. It's beautiful. It's the only word to describe Blue, Red, and Gray. It's just a beautiful song. And then we have How Many Friends, which to me, after Dreaming from the Waist, is one of the most powerful performances. I do think the production hinders the performance a little bit. Things get kind of muddy and hard to hear, especially towards the end of the song. But the bitterness of Pete's lyrics in How Many Friends, the disdain he shows for himself, it's powerful. And then finally we have In a Hand or Face, or A Face, not the song I would have picked to end the album, but not a bad song by any means. So why is this an overlooked masterpiece. I talked about it a little bit before. It is a strong collection of songs, and while it's not a concept album per se, there is a through line, a unified theme, material that is of a certain emotional state without being stale or staying too much within the same realm. Like I said before, Squeezebox often feels a little out of place, but we need comedic relief even in the most serious works of art, right? So, yeah, there's no overarching theme, there's no craziness from Pete in trying to create some sort of multimedia extravaganza. It's just a collection of songs that didn't come easy, a recording process that, according to the band themselves, was sloppy, and sometimes that comes out in the music, but that's what I love about The Who. Each album is so unique depending on how sober or not sober members were, depending on how into the material Pete was that he wrote. Just like their live performances, which vary in quality wildly from night to night, I find that their albums have the same sort of variety. So, if you haven't, if you are a Who novice, if all you know of The Who is Who's Next, some of the singles, maybe you've dipped your toe into Quadrophenia or Tommy, this should be your next step. The Who by Numbers, overlooked classic, doesn't get the respect it deserves, and you should give it a spin. Go pick up a copy, or if you're not ready to pick up a copy, head to Spotify or Apple Music or whoever you listen to music and give it a listen. That's it for this time on Greg's Grooves. Hope to see you again.